That's good. I just want to hear. I just want to hear these songs. I drive in listening. Hi, all. Dennis Prager here. You realize America is one of the only industrialized democracies to actually allow you to have a Christmas with a family and friends. Although the man I have increasingly come to hold in contempt, Anthony Fauci, says you shouldn't invite relatives or friends who are not vaccinated. Proves the efficacy of vaccines, doesn't it? By the way, it's a farce because the people who have vaccines are just as likely to transmit it. All he's doing is creating family havoc. The whole thing's family havoc. The whole thing's havoc. 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 I'm very proud, actually, that I said in April of 2020 that the lockdowns were the greatest international mistake in history. I was 100% right. They have only created death and destruction. That's what they have accomplished. Death and destruction. And it has made clear to me the ability to control people is extraordinary. Just say safety, and people will do anything. They will cut relations off with their parents. They will not have their parents visit their grandchildren for 2 years. How will they explain that later in life when it comes out what a farce this was? What is it like to be the child of sheep? Sweet sheep. A lot of these people are sweet. Sweet doesn't get you far in times of crisis. That's the problem. Sweet, to be a sweet person is a wonderful thing. I don't discount that. But to be a sweet person is really fine when there's no test, when there's no crisis. To be sweet when there's a crisis is to fail. Is that clear? Then there's been a test. I always read the New York Times columnists, and it's really, it's silly of me, but I'll acknowledge what I do, how I react, not what I do, how I react. I react almost every time to, this is the dumbest of the Times columnists. Then I read another column, and I take that back. Michelle Goldberg, right? Can't wait. Wrote a column. She can't wait to vaccinate her young children. These are the influencers for the well-educated liberal mind, the New York mind in particular. Or the San Francisco or LA. It's the same thing, obviously. Austin, Chicago. People in big cities believe more nonsense than people in small cities. Isn't that interesting? They believe more lies. They are much more malleable and controllable. Is that not correct? The further away from the cities, the harder it is to control people. Big cities produce sheep. How's this one? Listen to this. A truly devolving country, Canada. Vancouver's Sun. What's today's date? 2/2? This is 2/1. COVID-19, BC, that's British Columbia. Canada is composed of provinces. I think it's 10. I've been to all of them except Prince Edward Island. BC closes gyms, bars, clubs, and bans indoor Christmas parties as Omicron cases surge. Omicron cases surge. So what if cases surge? Of any type. Cases is not the issue. Death is the issue. Serious illness is the issue. right? And Omicron? The South Africans are the people who revealed it, and they said, what's everybody panicking about? It's no big deal. When people cut off flights from South Africa, like that'll work. Notice, it's really been effective. Omicron. Omicron may be a blessing, may be a curse, I don't know, but it may be a blessing. If more and more people get natural immunity and don't get sick, woohoo, what a gift. On Tuesday, what is today? Wednesday? Yeah. Yesterday, health officials announced the cancellation of all indoor gatherings, regardless of size. Wow. I think Canada should replace the maple leaf with a policeman. This is a good, we should have a contest. What should Canada replace the maple leaf with? A sheep is very, very good, is a very good idea. A policeman is another good idea. A mask, very nice. An N95 mask. Bars, nightclubs, gyms, fitness studios, and dance studios will also be closed as infections spike, especially in the Vancouver coastal health and Fraser health regions and among the 18 to 35 age demographic. 18 to 35. What percentage of people who died of COVID were 18 to 35? Here's another question. What percentage of those who died from COVID from the ages of 18 to 35 were healthy before they got COVID? British Columbia also expanded the 50% capacity limit to cinemas, theaters, sports venues, and concert halls, regardless of venue size. So I don't quite understand that. You can't have 3 people in your house, but you can have a half-full cinema? Do you get that? So here's the solution for my Canadian listeners. Gather with your family and friends in a movie theater. There you go. Pay the patrons not to watch the movie, so you're not disturbing them, and continue on with life. All organized indoor events are required to verify people's vaccination status using the British Columbia vaccine card. Whoa. The new restrictions take effect Thursday, tomorrow, 2 days before Christmas. Well, you heard yesterday from my guest in Holland, the entire society is closed down, entirely. You can't go anywhere but a grocery store and a pharmacy. The West gave birth to the Age of Reason. That didn't work out, did it? Now, why is that? Why is reason dead in the West? Why can people accept the idea that a male swimmer can compete against female swimmers if he, she announces that he, she is she? Did you ever see this guy or woman, Leah Thomas? Ever see it? Watch on the internet. There is no human being who would watch it who would think this is a female. Not one. All you have to do is announce I'm female. Doesn't matter how you look, speak, dress, anything. And we're supposed to go along. Now, I go along if, in fact, you do what a female would do, look like a female. For example, Caitlyn Jenner, I refer to as she. Caitlyn Jenner looks like a she, dresses like a she. I respect that. 1-8 Prager 776. We're 3 days before Christmas here. People need the holiday, whatever their faith. We'll be back in a moment.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
When there is a clash on the left between separate preferred activist groups, who gets preference? Who wins? Now, on the left, they have a hierarchy. Not any different than a hierarchy that you would have in any sort of organization. You see, when the left has a moment of disagreement or conflict, it is very important to realize that there is a structure of what matters more than something else. I wrote a piece for humanevents.com where I wrote, it was literally called, "This Matters More Than That." Now, a great example of this is when Fauci, the lockdown artist, the anti-freedom activist, mad scientist, who is the best example of the technological and scientific elite that the left worships. When he was even confronted by a talk show host where they asked Fauci, they said, "So do you think that young people should stop hooking up via Tinder and basically have..."
Hi, everybody. I'm going now to, it's been a little complex to arrange, but it's been arranged. I am going to be speaking now with Jonathan Mellis, and he is in prison in Washington, D.C. He's speaking from his prison. He's allowed 15 minutes at a time, to the best of my knowledge. He's in prison for participating in the January 6th events at the Capitol. He's a Tennessean. He's 35 years old. 35 years old. And we're going to speak now about a lot of things. So, Jonathan, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Well,
I just want to say it's an honor to meet you, sir. I'm a big fan.
thank you for that. I appreciate it a lot. Why are you in prison?
I'm in jail for the events that happened on January 6th, and I don't know how to go into more specifics about that. It was. I do want to say that it was not an insurrection. I know that the media narrative is.
That is correct. Different. It was not an insurrection. That is one of the great lies of American history.
Yes, sir. And I also want to point out that I am in here with Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, and I can promise you they had no plan that day. If you met these guys, you would know that they're not the kinds of guys with a plan.
Well, I don't know if there was one person found with a gun. How do you have an unarmed insurrection?
Yes, sir. And no institutional support. Every single right-wing media personality denounced it. Nobody. It's ridiculous that. But we're tarred as racists, extremists. I promise you, we are not racists. I promise you, we are not extremists. We sing the national anthem every single night at 9 p.m. with our hands on our hearts.
That, my friend, is considered an extremist at the New York Times.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So just so you'll know what an extremist now is defined as by the left. If you sing the national anthem every night, you're an extremist. That's how they would regard you. And a kook. They have contempt for people who love the flag and the country. Okay, anyway, what I'm particularly interested in is two things: what you're charged with and how you've been treated.
Okay, I'm charged with assault, and I've been I just want to point out that there's a lot of things that were very complicated that day. I don't know if your listeners have heard of the story surrounding Roseanne Boyland, but I would encourage them to look into that and to understand what is going on in many of these guys' situations, including myself. Roseanne Boyland was died that day as well. As a result of what happened, and our treatment has been mostly solitary confinement, solid until July, and then it's on and off after that. We only get 1 hour or 2 hours max out of our cell until July, and then now we come out of our cell about 4 hours roughly a day, and it's only half the pod. That's the lightest part of it. We've got every single guard, I mean, most of them, not every single one, but most of them, especially when they don't know us, they are absolutely hateful. They're racist. They call us names. They beat us. We've had several guys assaulted by officers for in the middle of the night, popping their doors, zip tying their hands and feet, beating them almost to an inch of their life. We've had I've witnessed this, guards going in inmate cells, and every time the jail gets held in, well, I think the warden and the deputy director or something was held in contempt because of the lack of medical treatment that they were providing to Chris Worrell, who was actually a cancer patient, and he needed treatments and he had problems, and they were refusing him that, so they were held in criminal contempt. The very next day, our food was spiked with cleaning chemicals, and it's clear that was retribution. That happens all the time. We're not given enough food. Medical treatment, like I said, we're completely ignored. None of us have seen our families' faces all year. We're not given video visitation. We're not given in-person visitation. We're given nothing. We've got guys from Texas, California. We have not seen our families. I mean, there's a lot of other things. There's no haircuts or barber services. There's, the plumbing, the water, brown water, all the time pops up, and then the water in the toilets will stop up all the time. So we have unworking plumbing situation, mold in the cells, the showers, the day room,
Do you have a lawyer?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I started with a public defender, as a lot of us guys did. I ended up hiring my own counsel, but that's one big problem that we have in here is the fellas that have public defenders. These are all left-wing public defenders that hate us, that hate Trump, that want us that advise us to denounce our political beliefs and to blame Trump for everything and do the whole song and dance in order to get out of here. One of the guys went to court for bond, and he denounced singing the Star Spangled Banner every night, and they let him out. You know, he called us all cult members, and they let him out. So basically, you denounce your beliefs and you agree to the re-education, and they'll.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is communist China in the United States.
Yes, sir. It's scary.
It's very scary.
But I do want to point out we still sing the national anthem every night at 9 p.m. with our hands on our hearts.
Do you have a court date? I mean, what is foreseen for you?
The speedy trial thing kind of was thrown out the window. I guess they say COVID is the reason. That's why a lot of this is happening. But I have a status hearing on January 20th, and I believe we're going to be hopefully putting in a bond motion soon. There's been,
So basically, this is the story on the left. They let people who run over people who beat up relatives, people who sell fentanyl, they get out immediately. And you, who did minimal, if anything, wrong, is treated like they treat people in the Soviet Union. Can we continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Jonathan Mellis. This is the saddest call of my career.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm a green card holder, have been for 20 years.
Thank you. From where?
When I first from South Africa.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I came into this country, I had to have blood tests to see that I didn't have syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV. I had to show all kinds of vaccinations. I had to show means to be able to support myself, et cetera, et cetera. So my point being is that the law is not being upheld as we understand it. And so I don't understand how they are circumnavigating the law again. I mean, obviously allowing these people into the country in the first place without proper vetting, etc., is one of the ways. But I mean, the laws are written for legal immigration. There are methods and ways of doing it. They say the system is broken, but it's not broken. It functions.
Greg, I am deeply in your debt. Stay where you are because I've got a couple of questions for you, but just an addendum to your magnificent remarks. The system is not broken. We totally have a system that is set up to work if the laws that are on the books will only be enforced. but that's a huge if, and they are being intentionally ignored. So 20 years you've been here, right? And as someone who's actually followed the law, share with me a couple of minutes of your experience on whether it was too easy, too hard, or just right.
I think it was just right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
He said, listen, I gotta give these niggas enough. Not too much, but enough that I have them voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
The race grievance industry would have you believe that blacks get up and think about nothing else except race.
If I tell you this is racist, yeah, I'm gonna get you emotional.
There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, 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 racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
When I started teaching, I was only 25. I was only 7 years older than my students. That's not a great span of time for between a man and a young woman. And
Hi, everybody. I said it was the saddest call of my life, of my career, I should say, and it is. That this man is treated this way in the United States of America. Jonathan Mellis is in jail in Washington, D.C. over the events of January 6th. Jonathan, is it correct that you did not enter the Capitol?
Yes, sir. I never went inside. I was on the Lower West Terrace, the inaugural stage where they set that up. Yes,
why were you not allowed bail immediately?
Well, my first lawyer was a public defender, and like I said, he was constantly saying disparaging things privately to me, about us, about me, about Trump. He did not want to go for a bond motion. He didn't want to.
So your left-wing public defender was basically against you.
Absolutely, 100%. He said several different things on multiple occasions, and finally, I had it. I had to get rid of him. He was so blinded by hatred. I couldn't believe it. First thing he told me was that he was one of the best in the country. He was a Forbes top 100. He was touting all of his stuff, but immediately after, that was the first time I ever met him on a Zoom call, and after that, it was just disparaging comments, always trying to take shots at me. Always,
He's a sheep. He's a left-wing sheep.
Yes, sir.
So you did not have the money for a non-public defender?
Yes, sir. I didn't have the funds at that moment. I was able to raise the funds afterwards, months later.
And then did you get then a private lawyer?
Yes, sir.
And what happened then? So why no bond with the private lawyer?
Well, the private lawyer since early October. We're working on a bond motion now. We've a lot more information is coming available, and he's working with that. So we're gonna try to get me out of here on a bond.
I want to follow your case very much, Jonathan Mellis. You are in effect a political prisoner and being tortured. I consider solitary confinement torture. I consider it worse than waterboarding. People are not driven out of their minds if they're waterboarded. It's an act of terror, and it's awful. I don't deny that. But people go out of their minds from solitary confinement. Do they allow you, when you're alone, even a book?
Yes, sir. They were allowing us books in this so there's two versions of the solitary confinement. There's the solitary confinement that we're on here with each other, where we're all in cells next to each other. We're all in the same pod. But in August to September, I was taken out of here for no reason. They have not given me any paperwork. They have not given me any explanation as to why they took me out of here, and they put me in the hole, which is we call the dungeon. So that is another version of solitary confinement, which is no anything. You don't get anything, and you're in a darker, dirtier, nastier, quieter area where you're literally shackled every time you're.
So it's probably, it sounds to me that it's fair to say that they're torturing you until you denounce your views.
Yes, sir. It's how it feels to all.
Because the man who did denounce his views got out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And lawyers are always telling their clients, public defenders are always telling their clients to denounce their views. Absolutely. We've been pressured everywhere.
You were not even allowed to attend your father's funeral, correct?
No, sir. And he's a decorated Vietnam War vet, and he fought for his country. He loved his country. And last time I saw him, he was standing next to an armored truck in front of his house while I was handcuffed in the back. But they had raided the house like I was Scarface, sir, and like I was an Al Qaeda member. I watched a woman die on January 6th, and they treated me like a terrorist.
That's right.
For that.
Well, on the bright side, you have a wonderful girlfriend.
She's the most amazing person in the world. Kelly is.
That's right.
I mean,
she made this all possible. Plus, a friend of ours who knew how to contact her. You will have a fine life when you get out, and I intend to greet you.
Thank you so much for all of your support and your help. I know that the events of that day disappointed some, and I just want you to know that our hearts were in the right place, and we're not evil, and we're not terrorists, and we're not racists.
That's right. I know that. All right, Jonathan Mellis. I will keep in touch with you and with this situation. I'd like to talk to Kelly, his girlfriend. Whew. America shouldn't do this, whatever your views of January 6th. Yesterday I worked out. Very achy. My muscles were really achy. I took one packet of the of Relief Factor. I'm fine. The thing's a miracle. Try it for 3 weeks for $19.95 at relieffactor.com, 800-500-8384.
Black people, that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
When there is a clash on the left between separate preferred
All right, who's singing? I know that voice. Judy Garland. Wow. My God. I'd like to remind you, these shows are made possible by sponsors. When you patronize a sponsor of a talk show like mine, you make it possible for one of the most powerful forces in the world, American talk radio, to be as vigorous as it is. Look, there are a lot of commercials. I fully acknowledge it. I've tried to minimize it as best as possible. But without these people, there is no Dennis Prager show or any of the others you listen to. And if the product is superb, as it is in the case of Pure Talk, $800 savings per family a year, same service as T-Mobile, Verizon, or AT&T, $30 a month for unlimited text and unlimited talk, 6 gigabytes of data. I've tried it. I couldn't believe it was that good for that cheap. It is. I bought a phone through them as well. You don't have to buy a phone. You don't have to change your number. You get half off if you use Dennis Prager. Pound 250, dial on your phone, pound 250, and say Dennis Prager. That's all you have to do. It's a very, very good savings. It's good to save money when there's no compromise on quality. Pound 250, say Dennis Prager. Renounce your views, and we won't torture you anymore. unless the man was lying, and I don't believe he was lying, be beaten up by guards because they don't like your political views. If I could have had a talk with a prisoner in communist China, wouldn't they report very similar things happening? Renounce your views, you get out. Until then, we beat you, we put you in solitary confinement. Man with zero record of having done anything, didn't even enter the capital. By the way, I did not know about this other woman who died. Died? Did she die or was she killed? I don't know, but it's worth looking into. The word insurrection is a left-wing lie. It's 100% lie. Insurrection. Right. People posing at Nancy Pelosi's desk with, what ears were they on? What ears did he wear?
It's another guy.
I know it's another guy.
Moose hat.
Moose hat, right. This is an insurrection.
He's been sentenced.
I know he's 4 years, right?
40 months.
40 months?
Yeah.
That's 3 years and 4 months. Yep. That's right. The left, the Democrats use the January 6th events like the Nazis used the Reichstag fire to deflect from their making a police state, which they are doing. Merrick Garland turns out to be a bad man. I didn't think so. He was portrayed as so mild-mannered. Here's a good example, we were told, of a sweet, moderate, liberal. Turns out to be a left-wing punk. There is so much wrong in the country that the left has created. Well, almost everything wrong is created by the left. Look at the schools. Yesterday I reported to you about what kids are learning in Illinois and in Oregon about gender identity at the age of 5. If your kid is learning that, and you keep your kid in that school, you're hurting your child. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant what your situation is. It's not irrelevant to you, of course, but it is irrelevant to what is happening to your child. Essentially, anything would be better than sending them to most schools in this country. Homeschooling is the most obvious. It sounds intimidating. In the beginning, this famous Hebrew phrase, all beginnings are difficult. I told you I was raised with aphorisms. They were the most powerful forces for my understanding the world. I wonder if kids have any aphorisms today. Well, I guess they do. Men give birth. Men menstruate. Pick your gender. Diversity. I guess those are their aphorisms. What your kids are learning in school, this treatment of fellow Americans in prison. I'm against solitary confinement for murderers. I've spoken about that frequently in my career. Unless there is absolute necessity that I can't even imagine. You have a guy threatening other prisoners. I would imagine that's the only possible time. And it has to be in a way, I mean, we have to be able to protect other prisoners from other prisoners. The American prison system is a bad reflection on this country. That people know that it's almost inevitable for many men to be raped in prison by other men. And now the transgender females, women in prison have male bodies with them because they claim to be female. It's very, very troubling. However, This is the most organized opposition to tyranny on the face of the earth today. Europe has collapsed. Canada has collapsed. We are fighting. We are, more than ever in American history, the last best hope on earth. This is the clearest example of that since 1776.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
When there is a clash on the left between separate preferred activist groups, who gets preference? Who wins? Now, on the left, they have a hierarchy. Not any different than a hierarchy that you'd have in any sort of organization. You see, when the left has a moment of disagreement or conflict, it is very important to realize that there is a structure of what matters more than something else. I wrote a piece for humanevents.com where I wrote, it was literally called, "This Matters More Than That." Now, a great example of this is when Fauci, the lockdown artist, the anti-freedom activist, mad scientist, who is the best example of the technological and scientific elite that the left worships. When he was even confronted by a talk show host where they asked Fauci, they said, "So do you think that young people should stop hooking up via Tinder and basically having very promiscuous relationships?" And Fauci said, "Well, you have to understand there's some risk to that." He didn't denounce it because he understood that if he came out against promiscuous behavior for young people, there'd be a revolution.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward.
When Wright came in this morning, he wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ. When the Spirit of God comes.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado?
Hello, my friends. I'm Dennis Prager. Sometimes I feel I do important things with this program. That call is an example. The American Civil Liberties Union is a fraud. It has no interest in civil liberties. It has no interest in free speech. In fact, it's actually acknowledged that its interest is in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's just another left-wing organization. So, Russ in Northridge, California, where can we donate money to John's defense? Whoops. And the answer will be forthcoming from me when I find that out.
StopHate.com.
StopHate.com? Yeah. There you go. Go to StopHate.com. That's right. So that answers Michael in Chula Vista, California. Answers Andy in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The issue of guards beating up prisoners for their political views and getting away with it is very disturbing. These guards need to be fired. They need to be put in prison. This must be pursued. I would say this if the prisoner were a radical leftist. In America, guards don't beat up prisoners. Like, isn't that one of the few things that left and right can agree with? Or is it okay to beat up prisoners who are on the right? I want to make something clear about what I said. This is going to be a big theme going forward into the year 2022. Right now, it's America or nothing with regard to liberty on the face of this earth. The only large, organized opposition to tyranny in the Western world is in America. Canada is lost. Canada is a farce. Canada is a nation of sheep voting nothings into office. We voted nothing into office. Half of our nation is sheep-like. Masks outside is the perfect example. Unless a person is a bona fide paranoid, I must say that I lose respect for anyone I see with a mask outside. You are hurting society, okay? You are damaging society. Children can't see your face. That's bad. You are breathing in your own air. That is pointless, if not bad. It's a bad thing to wear a mask outside. Bad. It's damaging. We may prevail. I have more optimism at the end of 2021 than I did at the beginning of 2021. We return.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God
Have
comes.
you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I've just begun.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm a green card holder, have been for 20 years.
Thank you. From where?
When I first, from South Africa.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I came into this country, I had to have blood tests to see that I didn't have syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV. I had to show all kinds of vaccinations. I had to show means to be able to support myself, et cetera, et cetera. So my point being is that the law is not being upheld as we understand it. And so I don't understand how they are circumnavigating the law again. I mean, obviously allowing these people into the country in the first place without proper vetting, etc., is one of the ways. But I mean, the laws are written for legal immigration. There are methods and ways of doing it. They say the system is broken, but it's not broken. It functions.
Greg, I am deeply in your debt. Stay where you are because I've got a couple of questions for you, but just an addendum to your magnificent remarks. The system is not broken. We totally have a system that is set up to work if the laws that are on the books will only be enforced. But that's a huge if, and they are being intentionally ignored. So 20 years you've been here, right? And as someone who's actually followed the law, share with me a couple of minutes of your experience on whether it was too easy, too hard, or just right.
I think it was just right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
He said, listen, I gotta give these niggas
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. This is the male-female hour, even though you don't hear the male-female hour theme. And this is the most honest talk about men and women, of which I am aware in the American media. And the reason is very simple. I have no inhibitions about any subject, including those involving sexual matters. And I am neither a man fan or woman fan. Truly, 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 I do not prefer one sex over the other. There are great women and great men, and crappy women and crappy men. Period. End of issue. The men who have argued, do you remember the professor who was on this show, who wrote a book on the superiority of women? One of the sweetest guys I ever interviewed, and one of the most moronic theses I ever debated. It was, he had no response. It was just an emotional outburst of a man who had been feminized, and he was a wonderful man. I just want to make that clear. I really liked him. He was polite and everything. Men who think the world would be better if women governed are troubled in their thinking. Women who think it are troubled as well, but I have more of a contempt for men who think it. Oh, of course. I mean, think of how much all these women in diversity, equity, and inclusion positions about which they're probably 75 to 80%. Oh, look at all the good they're doing. Look at all the good these professors of gender studies who are female are doing. Look at all the good the teachers of your kids who are telling them that they'll choose whether they're a boy or a girl. 99% practically of them are female. Okay? So for those who think women are naturally superior, the evidence is not there to support you. On the other hand, look at all the murders and rapes and other things that males do that females don't do. So each side can atone for its members. And that's my brief take on the two sexes. So this is let's see, we're right before Christmas. We'll open the lines today and have you comment on something I've done about twice during the lockdowns. How has it affected your relationship? How is it going with your spouse, your significant other, as they now say? How has it helped? Has it hurt? Has it had no impact? Do you see eye to eye on vaccination? Do you see eye to eye on whether your children should get vaccinated? Do you see eye to eye on lockdowns? Are you equally scared or equally non-scared? I mean, the chances for division between couples in the last year and a half are really something, and not foreseeable. I wonder if people could have predicted how the people in their families would react. I'll bet in some cases you could, but I'll bet there are cases where out of nowhere you have this extremely frightened person who, like Michelle Goldberg, columnist in the New York Times, writes she can't wait to vaccinate her children. So many more young people have died of fentanyl than of COVID that it's a weird society that doesn't preoccupy itself with fentanyl with regard to kids, but not, and I mean by kids, I mean under 30, not teenagers alone. So how has it affected your relationship? 1-8-PRAGER 776 877-243 776. That's the number to reach me. Yeah, I'll tell you, I do believe if you and your significant other see eye to eye, whatever side you're on, I am happy for you. If you are frightened by COVID and are preoccupied with masks, I really do. I'm not kidding. I hope your significant other is equally foolish. Because if one isn't, it's a real crisis. It's a true crisis. I mean, if you believe the President of the United States, the non-vaccinated are mostly going to die and are killing the vaccinated, which is a little preposterous since one wants to know what exactly does the vaccine do if the non-vaccinated are killing them. It's very strange. It's bizarre. It's nonsense, actually. It's not bizarre. It's nonsense. So I actually hope that if you are paranoid, you're married to a paranoid person. As much as I have contempt for that paranoia, it is far worse if one is rational. Far worse. The divisions in the country have to have affected many relationships, and I'm very sad about that. If you're a lefty, I hope you're married to a lefty. How's that? I treasure your marriage more than I treasure my values for the country. How is that? Because if truly you have a division on this, and this is, if it's your parents, if it's your kids, that's one thing. But if it's your spouse, that's a toughie. My heart goes out to both. To the one I think is a fool and to the one I think is rational. But my heart goes out to both. And as I said, I don't think it's foreseeable. The more I have monitored human behavior during this crisis, the more I have realized that it's very hard to predict how people will respond to a test. See, you're not tested when things are going well in society. There's no test. The test comes when society has a crisis like this. I'm talking about yes. My producer asked, am I limiting this to COVID, or you call in on any subject? I'm limiting it to friction between you or peace between you, given what we've gone. Yes, that's true. So if you're calling in about, different tastes in music or whatever it might be, that's not for this hour. This is a very big subject. What has happened in these last nearly 2 years? I'm very grateful. I fully acknowledge I'm very grateful. My wife and I are in sync. If anything, my wife is even more livid. I don't know how that's possible, but she might be. Maybe because she follows it even more. She knows more than I do about COVID, and I know a lot. I believe, it's interesting, I believe my wife knows more about COVID. I don't mean the chemical reactions of molecules or the composition of antibodies, but I believe my wife knows more about COVID than the vast majority of doctors in this country. Because the vast majority of doctors in this country, I don't believe, read about it. They hear a CDC proclamation, and in a herd-like manner, completely unscientifically, uncommitted to science or their patients, they just obey it. At least half the deaths in this country should have been prevented by therapeutics, and your doctor did nothing. You got COVID? Take 2 aspirin and give me a call. You get really sick, we can always put you on a ventilator. So what's the story in your marriage or your relationship? Very interested to hear. We got a full line, but keep calling because people drop off. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243-7776.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de sus palabras?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
You're out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just be good.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm a green card holder, have been for 20 years.
Thank you. From where?
When I first, from South Africa.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I came into this country, I had to have blood tests to see that I didn't have syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV. I had to show all kinds of vaccinations. I had to show means to be able to support myself, et cetera, et cetera. So my point being is that the law is not being upheld as we understand it. And so I don't understand how they are circumnavigating the law.
Howdy doody, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager, the male-female hour. Let's see, what's today's date? Will there be yet one more in this year? I believe so. That's correct. We'll have one more.
And if I'm not here, the right music will play.
And I'm asking you how this past year and a half to 2 years has affected your relationship. And I want to make something clear, which may surprise those who can't stand me. If you're frightened, if you wear masks outdoors, and you believe that children should be vaccinated and masked at school and masked during recess, and that tennis players should be masked, and all of that, I hope you're married to someone who believes that too. I believe that's all. I don't care that it's nonsense. It's dangerous, frightening to me that people believe idiocy. But I mean this. There's no humor. There's no sarcasm. There's no ill will. I hope you're married to someone who believes in that idiocy. I care about your marriage and relationship more than I even care about my own values on this matter. I don't want people to break up over this issue. So if you believe in outdoor masks, I hope your spouse does too. But here's an interesting question. Should that make for friction between a couple? One of the spouses believes masks outside is not just idiocy, but harmful. People need to see faces. It is a staggering loss for the health of a society to have veiled human beings for years. Staggering. What it does to children who need to read faces, I won't even begin to describe. So, should that lead to friction? Can you just say, my husband, what am I going to do? My wife, what am I going to do? Okay. That might be the healthiest reaction, if there is this distinction. Then there's political differences, which is also tough to manage. I'll tell you whom my heart goes out to most, and then I'll take your calls. This I have said for all of the time that I have been speaking on relationships. I always have sympathy for the spouse married to someone who changed. Even if you're both on the left. If you're on the left and you married someone on the left, and then they saw reason and truth and goodness and went to the right, I feel for you. They left you. You didn't leave them. Obviously, if your spouse went to the left, I have double sympathy. But I have sympathy for anybody. I have sympathy for the secular person married a secular person, and then one of the two becomes religious. I have sympathy for the secular person, even though I agree with the person who became religious. It's marriage and commitments are a minefield, or can be a minefield. A lot you know what I'm thinking of an analogy to marriage is the human body. When it works, it is glorious to behold. But a lot has to be going right in your body for you to be healthy. Just a toothache ruins everything. And so too in a marriage, a lot has to go right for it to be good. So I have sympathy and respect for the married who have worked these things through. Okay, let's see. Well, it's a brother and sister. Okay. Luke in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Hello.
Dennis, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Are you there?
Yeah, I sure am.
Yes, forgive me. I'm sorry. Yes, I have a beautiful daughter, Juliana, who is almost 3. We are Orthodox Christians. We attend a beautiful cathedral. We go to St. Mary's Orthodox Cathedral in northeast Minneapolis. And she used to love to go to church with the iconography and just the rich choral music and all the sonority. But since the church has started to enact a mask policy now, I cannot even bring her. Sorry, it troubles me. I can't even bring her to church with me because she doesn't see faces. All she sees are masks, and all she does is cry. So I can't bring my daughter to church. I mean, it's a struggle to get her communion.
So what is the church's excuse for this idiocy?
They don't have one. Safety. Trying to make people feel safe. Would they be violating the law if they did not demand? Well, there's no law. The mandate. You will, as someone who has refused to wear a mask in that church, they will come up to you.
Right, but in other words, but in Minneapolis, is there a law that you must wear a mask indoors?
No, sir.
So the church is going above and beyond the law.
Correct.
Well, let me say this, as one who has brought more people to both Judaism and Christianity than anyone I know living. I know it's a big claim, but if you know somebody who has brought more, I would happily mention their name. The failure, the cowardice, the sheep-like behavior of most religious institutions in the last 2 years is more depressing than any other single aspect of American life. If the religious will act like sheep, there is little hope. If you fear the God of safety more than the Almighty, if you fear the God of safety, if you fear Anthony Fauci more than you do the prophets, then what the hell is the use of religion? I have a service each week at the synagogue I founded. Nobody wears a mask. I conducted my services for the 15th year on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. 400 people, maybe 2 wore a mask. And of course, we didn't give them a hard time. We'll be back.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Burka.
How
buoyed are you that Americans are finally waking up, JD?
Look, I'm very excited about what I'm seeing. Certainly in Virginia, but also in Ohio. It feels like there's a real grassroots movement brewing on the conservative movement right now. And it's, just like in times past, it's not just the politicos, it's not just the establishment folks. Sometimes not even people who are that political, but they're just very fired up about what their kids are teaching. Their kids are coming home crying, upset because they're being told that they're a bad person depending on the color of their skin, and they're just fed up about it. And I think it may very well take down Terry McAuliffe, but I certainly think it is the beginning of a movement all across this country that's going to take down a lot of Democrats all over the nation.
In the break, we were talking to my team here, and somebody said, "Well, it's neck and neck, and if Glenn loses by 3 points, that's a big deal in any other normal election." And here's the reaction I have, JD. There is no such thing as a normal election after 2016. Do we have any faith that there will be a normal election? Talk to us about the recent breaking news about Facebook and the censorship of conservatives. You've written a piece about it. How do we get back to quote unquote normal, JD?
Oh man, we got a lot of work to do. Facebook did two things basically in the 2020 election, one of which we've known about for a while. They basically censored information that was negative about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. They promoted information that was negative about Donald Trump. And I really believe that swung the election in a really important way.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
You called your son. You personally promised him you would be here.
Lucas, I don't know how to help you.
Your daddy loves you, you gotta know it, pal.
Prayer is a powerful thing, Ethan.
I'm listening to the lyrics. All right, everybody, male-female hour. I want to know how this past year and a half has affected your relationship. A lot of you are calling in about family members, not specifically about spouses. I can't control the calls. But it's all interesting. I want to repeat my view. If you're a hysteric, I hope you're married to a hysteric. Okay? Because if a rational person is married to a hysteric, it's not good for either. So it's a real challenge to the relationship. All right, let's see here. Let's go to some more of your calls. And Bob, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I know Cherry Hill well. Hello.
Hello, Dennis. It's great to talk to you. I'm really appreciative of you. You're a national treasure.
Well, that's very sweet
So
of you.
thank you.
Thank you.
The effect has been horrible on our relationship. It has been devastating. I'm a psychiatrist, but I went into couples therapy to try to deal with this, and it's been excruciating. But your interview with Mark McDonald and the United States of Fear was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He has diagnosed the problem 100%. He's
Yes.
right on in terms of what we're dealing with. And I recommended it to my family or my couples therapist to try to help out.
What is your couple's
is-
what is your couple therapist's views? What are they?
Well, in terms of the big macro issues, he's not getting into that. He's really
No, I don't.
focusing on-
But all right. So he is fair on the issue between you and your wife.
I trust him, and the issue of the COVID and the lockdown has not come up specifically.
So what?
He's
What?
just
So what is
dealing
the? What? Give me an example of the tension that's been created now between you and your wife.
Ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
No sex.
Right.
No sex.
Because.
That's a pretty big issue.
But because.
Well, I think initially it was because of fear of contagion, and that somehow, because I go out, that I was going to bring it back, and that she was going to catch it. It has moderated to some degree, but she was deathly afraid of catching COVID. I mean, deathly afraid.
Well,
of it.
do you sleep in the
And
same
so-
bed?
No, that predates the COVID thing. We've not done that for years and years because of my schedule.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you have different views? Is that it? She's far more afraid?
Oh, totally.
Mhm.
She is 24/7 on NPR and is just getting all that propaganda, essentially, and will not listen to anything
Right.
that is not NPR approved.
I'll tell you, in my opinion,
I am AM radio and
Right.
conservative, and I have to keep it under wraps.
so has your therapist been any good?
I believe so. I mean, I think it was to the point where the divorce was pretty much imminent, I think. So that is moderated, and we're much better in that degree. We're talking
Prior
the-
to February 2020 and lockdowns, how was your marriage?
Right. It was adequate, but not. I was not satisfied, but it was nowhere near as bad as what we're going through
Well,
now.
I
Or what we went through
all right. I only
in
wish
the
you
lockdown.
well, and yes. So I just want to add, totally non-related to your issues. I wish I could form a psychiatrist group that had because I meet you and I hear you on the radio. People like you send me an email. I don't know what I can do with it, but I know so many psychiatrists who know that the American Psychiatric Association is simply a left-wing activist group of fools. Maybe you could start one. The Healthy Psychiatrists of America. Well, good luck, my friend. I'd like to hear from you in 6 months. Okay, y'all. The Nerve Renew story is a very good one. I called them up and asked them if they want to advertise because it was so successful with me. The story is known to many of you. I have tingling and numbness in my feet. It's just congenital. Some of you have it in your hands. I had inserts made for my shoes, which were terrific when I wore shoes. Took them off. The tingling immediately showed up, the numbness. Started Nerve Renew, threw away the inserts in a year. Try it for 2 weeks for free. Try nerverenew.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor. Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat. My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO. Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God comes.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. Él está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just be.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling. Hi, everyone. Dennis Prager, male-female hour. As we approach the end of the year, the question is, how has... I've done this twice. So sort of every half year, I ask sort of a report card on your relationship, your marriage, and the crisis of the country. The last caller is having real marital issues. Didn't sound like his marriage was great before, but it's really been exacerbated by this. I've come to the realization, I did not know this 2 years ago. I've learned so much in the last 2 years. It's almost scary to think that I wasn't aware of so many things. For example, it's very hard to unfrighten a frightened person. It's very hard to rationally dialogue with an irrational person. That's really what I'm saying. If you're married to someone who, if you give a good reasoned argument that contradicts their own position and they say, yeah, that's true, you're right, you're married to a terrific person. Everyone I have a relationship with is in that category. Yeah, good point, you're right. You have something for me to read that contradicts what I think? I'll read it. I'm not wedded to any of these positions. That's it. I'm wedded to what is true and right and good. So if you have something that's more true, more right, more good, then of course I'll adopt it. It's not a credit to me. It's a discredit to the person who wouldn't. So if you're married to someone like that, it's a very serious problem. You know my response to happy wife, happy life? It took me years to come up with this because nothing rhymes with husband. So here's my response to happy wife, happy life. Rational spouse, happy house. How's that? It's a good one. It is. It's very good. You agree, Mr. Producer? Rational spouse, happy house? Okay, let's take your calls. William in Jacksonville, Florida. Hello, William.
Dennis.
Yes.
It's great to talk with you, sir.
Thank you.
If I can say one thing right off the bat, you're a blessing, sir. Thank you for standing up for what you believe in. I think it was Gandhi that said, be the change you want to see in the world, so thank you for being part of that change, man.
Well, I've never heard Gandhi used to compliment me, since I have mixed feelings about Gandhi.
There's a first for everything, right?
Correct. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, I'm 33. I'm in Jacksonville visiting family for Christmas, and God, dating has been a crazy experience with COVID. In some ways, it's been a blessing where you kind of have that automatic filter.
That's right. That's correct. Yes.
Which is fantastic. And then, I've been told that women love acts of service. So here's my COVID story. I was dating a young lady, and she was working in the emergency room. And I always said, hey, how about we get your car cleaned? How about we get your car cleaned? So one day I say, babe, you're at work. I'm going to pick your car up while you're at work. I'm going to get it cleaned. And I armor all the covers. I detail it. I vacuum it. I get it washed. And she's working in the emergency room. Wouldn't you know it? 3 days later, we go up to the 4th of July, and I got COVID. I had come down with COVID, and I'm curious if because she had been sitting in the seats with those scrubs, me trying to be a loving boyfriend, I wound up with COVID. Man, it was terrible, but I'm fine. This was back in 2020 before any type of vaccine or therapeutics. This was a brand new virus. And really, I had a fever for 2 days. I had lost my sense of smell and taste for maybe like 3 or 4 days. And other than that, I'm completely fine. And I feel like, getting the natural immunity is what we really need to work towards as a society.
That's
and I
right.
thought that was the original
That's
plan.
been my belief the whole time. So how did this affect, are you still dating her?
We're not. And I would say, let me get your opinion on this. I've heard that men want to be respected in a relationship, and women want to be loved. Does that sound right, or does that sound wrong?
Yes, I think that's largely accurate. That is correct. And I would go on the women a little further. Women want to be loved by a man she respects.
Okay. I would say that similar to holding a magnet to a compass, COVID, like you've been saying, makes it a lot harder for people to be rational and have, I'm trying to maybe realistic expectations with a partner. And a lot of times, men, we're simple creatures. We love to just do one thing and then just kind of relax. I think it put a lot of undue stress on a lot of ladies, and it made it a little bit harder for them to kind of think, okay, maybe this isn't the perfect man, but this is a good man, you know?
Well, that's true, COVID or not COVID. Anyway, I thank you. I wish you, obviously, luck in your dating life. Male-female hour continues.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
When I started teaching, I was only 25. I was only 7 years older than my students. That's not a great span of time for between a man and a young woman, and it is a daily distraction.
That's right. It is. I thank you for your honesty. That is exactly right. And it is not his fault. He's built that way. It's no more his fault than food is a distraction to the hungry. Okay? There is no difference between the two. So I'll tell you an interesting story, really interesting. Many years ago, and I can't find this on the internet. Maybe one of you can, and that would be of great help to me. I only remember that he was from a university in Indiana, but I don't remember which university. What did it say, Sean? So a professor did a study and found that one of the two groups, I don't remember the second, of men most likely to divorce were high school teachers. And I think college teachers. In other words, men around a great number of young women divorced at a greater rate than any other men. And I had that professor on with that study. So if you could find that, I could read it to you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Americans still have enough fighting spirit. We're not Canada, we're not Sweden, we're not Germany. And
I would say that even under lawful elections where it was close but you lost, the incoming administration would say, you know, we don't really have a mandate. Normally people would say, I've got to deal with this closely divided group. I can't do great, big, dramatic things. This group has come in and said, we are going to go as hard to the left, as hard to progressivism, as hard to socialism, as hard to communism as we can, as fast as we can. We are going to go as hard to
Hi, everyone. Male-female hour. How's it been for you, married couples, girlfriend, boyfriend couples, the last year and a half or 2 years? Okay, let's see. Becky, Columbus, North Carolina. Hi.
Hi, Mr. Prager. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I just wanted you to know, I think I'm your adopted daughter. I'm not positive, but I think somewhere down the line
I would have had to have given birth at 12. I would have had to conceive the child at 12. Maybe adopted sister is more likely.
There you go.
Right.
I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate it. I've listened to you for a long time now, and it has really helped me through a lot of rough patches.
Wonderful.
So,
I'm very happy
thank
to know
you very
that.
much.
You're welcome.
You asked about family or the dynamics with, I'm not married, but I was dating somebody for 9 months, and we broke up right when COVID hit because of all this. I refused to wear a mask. I refused to stay home. I went out every day. Enjoyed life. And I thought that our family was going to be immune to this also as far as the fear factor. And it has ravaged our family horribly.
Wow. Wow.
I'm very grateful that my brother, he and I are both in a recovery. I've been in for 31 years, and he's been in for 10. And if it wasn't for him,
you mean you mean you recovered addict?
Yes, alcoholic addict.
Right. You know what? God bless you. We don't have a lot of time, so I thank you for the call. It just triggered a thought in me. I have no idea if this is true, but I wonder if there is less fear proportionately among AA members than the general public. That's worthy of bouncing off listeners. And it was worth thinking about. Hey, listen, TJ, Henry, Patty, Roberta, James, and Deborah. This is the saddest part of doing a radio show, is not being able to take every call. I really hope you're in sync with your partner. I really do. Even if you don't agree with me, I hope you both don't agree with me.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEAls. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Right? So this has changed in the culture. We now have entire stadiums screaming blank Joe Biden.
Right.
I actually think that in some measure this is a sign of health in the country.
I don't think you're wrong. In fact, my last column I talk about in essence, what the American people are feeling in terms of how they're being treated by the current administration.
Now, excuse me, by the way, I'm not saying I approve of it.
Right.
It makes me uncomfortable.
Clearly.
But
No,
at the same time,
we're talking about what we're observing.
It seems like a strange sign of health that we feel free enough to say that.
Well, and I don't even know that we necessarily feel free. What I would say is that the American people feel like kind of a battered spouse at this point.
Okay, you wrote an article.
And that the administration is so abusive to how they're treating people that this reaction that you're seeing, and it started out in 2 college football stadiums. It's now been in dozens to hundreds.
It's the new wave.
NFL teams had it going on this week. Talladega or NASCAR or whatever they ran had people chanting it. There is something so inherently abusive about how people are being treated
by the
that
government.
They are, and particularly in a society that wouldn't consider itself particularly Christocentric. And it is, I am actually thankful, to your point, to see a degree of, we're not going to let this abuse continue, even if it's nothing more than using our freedom of speech to say something that's very vulgar and attach it to him. We're not taking it anymore.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business districts.
They're racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Yes. How many bells are you hearing these days? Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager with you. I really, 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 really hope that you have a meaningful and joyful Christmas. I hope you gather with as many friends and relatives as you would in normal times. Acting normally during critical times is a beautiful thing to do. It's hard to imagine, though, that anybody is in sync with all their immediate relatives. Well, what do I mean by immediate? Let's see, parents, children, siblings. Yeah, parents, children, siblings. If you are, you're very fortunate. And if it includes all your friends, you're doubly fortunate. I am in sync with, I am blessed. Well, my parents have left this world. I am certain my parents would not have freaked out. You know my father. My father would have said, hey, you know, kamikazes tried to sink my transport ship in the Pacific. I'm not freaking out about COVID. That's what I think he would have said. And in that regard, a very interesting thing arose with the last caller last hour on the male-female hour. And I wonder if I picked up on something that has not been noted to the best of my knowledge. I wonder if ex-addicts and including and perhaps especially people in Alcoholics Anonymous or in any of the variations on AA, I wonder if they are as afraid proportionate to the rest of the population. If 50% of the population is freaked out, are 50% of ex-addicts freaked out? I'll bet not. And I have two theories as to why I believe that. I believe one, not to confuse the A's here. Number one, they get a lot of wisdom from Alcoholics Anonymous. And the wise are less likely to be frightened. And number two, they have seen hell. When you have seen terrible things, it's a sort of vaccination against panic over less terrible things. Many ex-addicts have had a brush with death. What is the saying? If you're an addict, you either end up let's see, sober, dead, or in jail. Right? Is that fair to say? That was told to me by an ex-addict. Sober, dead, or in prison. It's the part of the reason for the freak out in the West, people freaking out, governments doing what they're doing. Oh, I want to read to you about the Irish minister. Is that they've had life so good that they don't understand that viruses and death are part of life. They don't. The sad part is religious people should, and the religious record is as much cowardice and herd-like behavior, almost. There are terrific exceptions. A handful of pastors, a handful of priests, and a handful of rabbis. Overwhelmingly, they have been more freaked out, like the synagogue I know where they put a mask on the ram's horn, the shofar, on Rosh Hashanah, the holiest act of the day, the blowing of the shofar to call people to penitence. They put a mask on the shofar, or the shofar. You can't get more sick and paranoid than that. It's actually ludicrous. I don't know how people took it seriously. If I saw a shofar with a mask on it, I don't think it would call me to penitence. It would call me to contempt. These are the people who lead my synagogue. And of course, it's the same with Catholic churches and Protestant churches, Mormon temples, churches. Part of the paralysis of the churches, all of them, including LDS, is the belief that you obey the authorities, which is in normal times perfectly right. They say the speed limit's 55. I don't obey it, but at least I honor the fact that it's 55, so I won't go more than, let's say, 70. Okay, that's fine. And many other things, of course I obey the authorities. But the notion that you obey the authorities on major moral issues that you believe they are wrong on, that your conscience tells you they're wrong, where does it end? And I mean that sincerely. Where does it end? Were you supposed to obey the authorities in Germany in the 30s? Churches did. Is that a noble record? This notion, and I include LDS, whom I adore. Well, we obey the authorities. Oh, really? What is this, unquestioning obedience to tyrants? It's been a dark age. A lot of things have become clear in the darkness, ironically. Here's a clarity for you, and I didn't realize this till very recently. I've started to put more 2 and 2s together. And if you heard my interview yesterday with the spectacular Dutch woman, this brilliant 25 or 27-year-old Dutch lawyer, brilliant, truly brilliant, who's an activist for liberty in Holland, as she put it, you, America, are the last best hope. And that did it. That's correct. We are. Canada is a joke, a bad joke. I'm telling you, I think Canadians who love liberty should move to the United States. They should, if they want cold weather, they should stay, and just move a little bit to North Dakota or northern New York if you're in eastern Canada. Although then you're stuck in New York, so it's a bad idea. I read to you about the rule in Vancouver. No Christmas. That's it. 3 people, you can have 3 people over. Or Fauci telling you don't have the unvaccinated for Christmas. That's a real it's a real ode to the vaccine. But I want to emphasize America as the last best hope. We are. For all of my career, whenever I've interviewed a European conservative, I have said to virtually everyone, you know what the big difference between your country and mine is? We have talk radio and you don't. And everyone said that is right. And of course, there are many other differences, but talk radio is huge. Just huge. I'm not saying it because I'm in talk radio. I'm saying it because it's true. There is no organized voice. Do you know what she told us yesterday? I couldn't believe it. 150,000 Dutch demonstrate against the draconian tyranny in Holland, and the mainstream media never reported it. Remember her telling us that? Do you know what 150,000 Dutch is? It's 1.5 million in the United States. We are the last best hope. It's never been truer. Never. 1-8 Prager 776.
Antichrist when the Spirit of God comes.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just be.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm a green card holder, have been for 20 years.
Thank you. From where?
When I first, from South Africa.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I came into this country, I had to have blood tests to see that I didn't have syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV. I had to show all kinds of vaccinations. I had to show means to be able to support myself, et cetera, et cetera. So my point being is that the law is not being upheld as we understand it. And so I don't understand how they are circumnavigating the law again. I mean, obviously allowing these people into the country in the first place without proper
Are you listening? That's the question, my friend. C'est la question. It's a вопрос. My friends, I am the only person with a national talk show with a half Peruvian engineer. I feel deeply honored by that fact. Will? It's a distinction thanks to you. Sitting in for the vacationing Sean, who is currently basking in the sun in the Fiji Islands. I made that up. My suspicion is he's with his, what does he have, a cat or a dog? Or both?
He's out in the hills up there in the mountains.
He's in the hills in the mountains?
Probably drinking beer and playing video games.
Okay, we won't add that. That's wonderful. Thank you, Will. My dear friends, during the break, I came up with another theory. I have a very odd brain. I knew that from a very early age. I want to understand everything. I wanted to understand everything as a kid. Has not left me one iota. That's why I have so many theories. So here's another theory. Remember, I said it last hour, so this is actually brand new. It shouldn't have been, but it is. Once you hear it, you'll think, oh, that's obvious. But I didn't think of it before 3 minutes ago. Was there any way to predict how your friends or relatives or spouses would react to COVID? Would they freak out, or would they act normally and know that there is hysteria dominating our lives? Which one will it be? So we think it's hard to predict. I just realized, literally in the last few minutes, I just realized a perfect predictor. Will, can you come up with it? I'm sure you can't, which is my point. When I say this, all of you are thinking, yeah, what would predict whether my wife, my husband, my brother, my sister, my parents, my children, my friends would freak out or not? And here is the best predictor. Are you ready? Have they freaked out? Good. I like it. All right. Send the guy home. Well done, Will. Were they freaked out? Are they freaked out about global warming? I don't know if I do, but this was important to realize. I think it's inconceivable that anybody who believes the idiocy that life on Earth is existentially threatened by climate change would not freak out about COVID. That's it. Your nature, it has nothing to do with reality in either case. It is your nature. You are a frightened human being. Frightened human beings are frightened. Once you hear it, it makes perfect sense. And I'll bet the opposite. Virtually nobody freaked out about the, quote, existential threat, unquote, of climate change is freaked out about COVID. There you go. I'll bet that the vast majority of people who don't believe the lie that the world is existentially threatened, I don't deny that the world is getting warmer. I deny that it is existentially threatened. I'll bet that the vast majority of people who are not freaked out about climate change don't wear masks outdoors. Let's get Ami Horowitz to go somewhere where half the people are wearing masks and half are not, and just ask them about climate change. I think I hit it. The reason that people are frightened beyond words about dying, not having children because they'll drop dead from climate change, these people are the ones who want their children vaccinated. The frightened are frightened. The non-frightened are not frightened. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What else are these people afraid of? They're afraid of climate change. They're afraid of COVID. Is there another example? There were examples, obviously. I mean, Alar and apples. Remember that one? I don't even know what Alar is, to be honest. But I must say, when the Alar and apple scare was publicized, I continued eating apples. Because I am in the group that isn't frightened. And we're a happier group. We truly are. The only thing I'm frightened of are the frightened. They frighten me. Because they'll do anything. Anything. They will suppress every liberty of speech. Especially of speech. And now of movement all over Europe. Europe is as sick as Canada, which is really saying something. We have a European neighbor. You know what? Here's an interesting question. We have two neighbors, Mexico and Canada. Has Mexico flipped out? Mexico's pretty damn free, isn't it? Are there lockdowns in Mexico?
No. This way, no. Mexico's much open.
Much more open than Canada.
Yeah. Oh, there's no comparison.
Isn't that an interesting question? Why is that? Is it because heat kills viruses? But Peru, I'm sorry, Will, Peru really locked down. Peru was notorious. And they had a lot of people dying. That's correct. So either that shows that lockdowns do nothing, or it shows that if you have a lot of people dying, you're inevitably going to lock down. Not for good reason, you just will. The frightened are frightened. The non-frightened are not frightened. Franklin D. Roosevelt was right. Really, 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 really right when he said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. That's correct. I fear the frightened. They will do anything to suppress the non-frightened. They hate us. They do. They hate us. You know how many people on the Washington Post, after they wrote a piece on me 2 months ago? And these are Washington Post subscribers. Hope I die. But it doesn't mean a thing to me, by the way. I just need you to know it has zero impact on me emotionally, psychologically, or any other way. But they hate us. The frightened hate the non-frightened. That is the key to understanding the Democrat-Republican divide. It is the frightened party versus the non-frightened party. This was big, my friends, if I may say so myself. Back in a moment.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
He said, listen, I gotta give these niggas enough. Not too much, but enough that I'll have them voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
The race grievance industry would have you believe that blacks get up and think about nothing else except race.
If I tell you this is racist, yeah, I'm gonna get you emotional.
There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, 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 racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
When I started teaching, I was only 25. I was only 7 years older than my students. That's not a great span of time for between a man and a young woman, and it is a daily distraction.
That's right. It is. I thank you for your honesty. That is exactly right. And it is not his fault. He's built that way. It's no more his fault than food is a distraction to the hungry. Okay? There was no difference between the two. So I'll tell you an interesting story, really interesting. Many years ago, and I can't find this on the internet, maybe one of you can, and that would be of great help to me. I only remember that he was from a university in Indiana, but I don't remember which university. What did you say, Sean? So a professor did a study and found that one of the two groups, I don't remember the second, of men most likely to divorce were high school teachers. And I think college teachers. In other words, men around a great number of young women divorced at a greater rate than any other men. And I had that professor on with that study. So if you could find that, I could read it to you. Wow, I'll tell you, that was important stuff. The frightened hate the unfrightened. That explains a tremendous amount of what's happening. You're frightened by climate change as an existential threat to life. You'll be incredibly frightened by COVID. The frightened are frightened. Why is half the country frightened and the other half not? I don't know I don't know the answer yet. I'm working on it. There may not be the answer. There may be. I think one of them, frankly, is your nature. I think some people are born and they're afraid of falling. I mean, if you're 70 and you're afraid of falling, it's different than if you're 7. And so I think it's partially what your nature is. But of course, the whole point of life is to fight your nature. So I don't excuse the frightened, but that is one of the reasons. The other is that people can be, in fact, taught to be frightened. Mass media are capable of frightening people about anything. Quite literally anything. A hurricane hits, it's global warming. It's climate change. The severity of hurricanes in the last decade has actually been less. Damage done by them has been less. It doesn't matter. Tornado in Kentucky, climate change. Ingrown toenail, climate change. Wow, this is very important stuff. Elliot, Staten Island, New York. Hello, Elliot.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for taking my call. You know, during the height of COVID back in 2020 of March, April, and May, and June, I work as a respiratory therapist, so I'm involved with all the breathing apparatuses, the ventilators, high-flow oxygen. And I got hit with COVID, and I survived. But during that time that I was working with it, there was an hour And I said, I can die. And then after that 1 hour, I said, if God wants me, then he can take me. I'm not afraid. And it's fear that, it's natural to be afraid. You got to be crazy not to be, but don't let it overtake your body. Think about it for a second. And that's why in the Bible, I read both your books, which was excellent, that it says the most often phrase in the Bible is, fear not.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to fear, but fear itself, as Roosevelt said. And if you really believe in God, you're not going to have fear. And that's why God does not want people to go to war who have fear, for two reasons. One, you're going to give your position to the enemy because you're going to get up and run, and you're going to endanger the soldier next to you. And also, if you do fear, you really shouldn't be there because you don't believe in God. And, it's a natural thing, but fear not if you believe.
That's great. I write about that, the Army thing, in my Deuteronomy, which I'm sure you'll get because you like the first two volumes, Genesis and Exodus.
I definitely will.
Yes, so I write about that. That is it's a very intelligent point you made. That people don't know this. I want to just repeat, forgive me, I just want to repeat to the listeners. There's a biblical law. All the biblical laws are in the first 5 books. And there's a biblical law that if a man is very afraid, he should not be in the army. That's that shows you how bad the Bible and God, if you will, regard people having fear. It's just damaging. One final question. Are you married?
No, I'm divorced now.
The reason I asked was I wanted to know if your wife shared your views, but it's academic in your case. Not. Are you dating?
No, she's more. Yes.
Good. You're a catch. And you can tell prospective dates. Dennis Prager said I'm a catch. By the way, I suggest to people to put my name in their description of self if they're on any of these dating sites, because it's a great filter. Those who know me, and there are a lot of people who do, will either go, wow, that's great, or are you kidding? I wouldn't date you in a million years. All right.
Relief Factor.
ReliefFactor.com. I mentioned earlier that I had soreness because of my workout yesterday. I don't even want to think about it. Anyway, it's a hard workout. My muscles hurt last night. I took one little packet of Relief Factor. I give you my word, I'm pain-free today. The speed of this is so remarkable, they say if it doesn't work in 3 weeks, it probably won't work. Cancel your order and try out 3 weeks for $19.95. So if you have any type of muscle or joint ache, why wouldn't you try it? ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
You're out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just be good.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my...
The frightened hate the frightened. Big theme today. I just came up with it today. It's very important. That and the people who went through recovery, ex-addicts, are less frightened. That's the issue. The issue is frightened. You're frightened about global warming. You're frightened about COVID. You're not frightened about the, quote, existential threat of climate change. You're not frightened by COVID. You don't deny that either exists. It's not a denial. It's just not. The people who are frightened think we deny. That's what the common is. Climate deniers. PragerU is a climate denier. It's a common phrase in those who attack PragerU because it's so effective. And there isn't a single video. We've had many videos on climate change. Not a single one denies that it is happening. Not one. But if you don't acknowledge that it's an existential threat, if you don't believe, what's Thunberg, the girl's name, first name? Thunberg. I know, what's her first name? I think it's Thunberg in Swedish. It's Thunberg here. Greta. Yes, Greta Thunberg. A voice of reason. That's correct. That's what they think. Joseph, Los Angeles, thank you for calling.
Oh, hello?
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Prager. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a point real quick. I've really wanted to say this to you for quite some time. I am someone who is, mostly liberal-leaning, though I don't consider myself a leftist. And I listen to your show on almost a daily basis just because I find you to be, as far as someone who I oftentimes do disagree with, I at least find you to be extremely intelligent, articulate, and respectful. And
I thank you for the compliments, but I want you to know that it's more a credit to you than even to me, because most liberals, forget leftists, most liberals don't listen for 5 minutes to anything they differ with.
Well, I think we live in a society right now where people, especially, and I've been so disenfranchised with the Democratic Party, but people who feel that they have a monopoly on morality are the most fearful, right? Like, those are the people who are most scared to see.
Oh, I don't care if they think they have a monopoly on morality. I care if they use a force to shut those of us who differ with them up. If you want to believe you have a monopoly on morality, I hope you enjoy your lunch. I don't have it. I couldn't care less. I only care whether you suppress me because of your monopoly. That's what the left believes. I think I'm right, but I don't want to suppress the left. I would never take down their Twitter accounts.
The other reason I was calling was I thought what you said about addiction was extremely poignant. I am a recovering heroin addict. It is the struggle that I wouldn't wish on anyone, but I want to say there's one thing that unites, I think, most recovering addicts and alcoholics, anyone of any, in recovery, is I think we gain a sense of humor about things that are actually quite dark and morbid after our experiences, and that is, at least from my personal experience, what has allowed me to kind of float through certain experiences in life, especially during the pandemic, without feeling any
I was
fear.
right. I was right.
Yeah, I would strongly agree with you on that.
Wow. Thank you. They've seen real things to fear. They have been at the door of death, most addicts. So they're not particularly scared by COVID, especially the young ones, which is most ex-addicts. Fentanyl kills so many more young people. And that's just fentanyl, not even talking about alcohol and not other drugs, but fentanyl alone kills so many more young people than COVID. So why the hell should they be scared of COVID? But the frightened are frightened. And the frightened, how's this? The frightened are frightening. There's another good phrase for us. The frightened are frightening. It's like I used to say to my kids, if they'd ever say they're bored, I would say to them, no, you're not bored, you're boring. The bored are boring. The frightened are frightening. Yes, indeed. On a roll today. Okay, let's see here. We got another one, I thought, there's a disagreement. Of all places, Mobile, Alabama. Hello, Don.
Hi, Dennis. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
So you've mentioned that one of the greatest realizations you've come to is that fear is the most powerful emotion. Well,
yes.
I kind of disagree with that because I believe that whatever we feed our mind most obsessively with, that will become most dominant. Before I became a Christian, I was a waffling conservative, and I had many unrealistic fears. When I got saved 25 years ago, most of those fears went away, and the reason is because in Scripture it says, perfect love casts out all fear. And when Christ became dominant, I no longer feared death and many other unrealistic fears.
Right, so how does that negate my claim that fear is the most powerful emotion?
Because I believe love is the most powerful one.
Oh, I see. Because you have been able to conquer fear with love.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, someone has for me, but yes.
Okay. It's I can't deny your experience. But I can't. I don't know what to say. I think in the sum total of human experience, fear has been more dominant than love. So, is it possible? Can love be the most dominant? Yes, but first you got to get rid of the fears, or let love get rid of you, for whatever it might be. But anyways, a very interesting call. We return to the Dennis Prager Show.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me.
but he's not. We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
You're out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I've just begun.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick. We have to change that. I'm really advocative of that. We teach what should be taught. You like that? I think it's more powerful. That's much more challenging and true. We teach what should be taught. I'm Dennis Prager. Show went fast. Always a good sign. The frightened are frightening. Alex, Huntington Beach, California. Please be concise. Hi.
Hi, Dennis. Well, I'm not afraid of global warming, and I'm not afraid of COVID.
Right.
Go my wife.
Right. Well, you're lucky.
Yeah, well, we are lucky in terms of our attitude. We're also lucky in terms of the fact that we believe that the body can heal itself. Body has its own immune system.
Right, but that's not why you called. Tell me why you called, because we don't have a lot of time.
Okay. Why I called was that my wife and I wanted to attend synagogue here in Huntington Beach, and we called 2 synagogues to find out if they were holding services, and they are, but both of them require masking during the service. They require a COVID passport, if you will, to be filed with them. And if you don't have the COVID passport filed with them, then you have to undergo a PCR test within what?
The synagogues, like most churches, have been a disgrace. They've given religion a bad name. The cowardice and the hypochondria, the panic, the irrational fear that has dominated synagogues and churches has been a disgrace. There are a handful of exceptions. It's a long trip for you, like an hour and a half, but you come to my synagogue. Nobody wears a mask, and nobody died. Mature people make up their own minds. We should call our synagogue, even if you're 12 years old, the synagogue of the mature. Oh, God, this is so many particularly good calls. Well, I'd like to talk to recovering addicts about this, about my theory. I have a lot of you calling in. I have a great affection for recovering addicts. Megan, Gregory, Derek, Brandy, Jim, Ken, and Maria, God bless you for calling. See you tomorrow. I'm Dennis Prager.